What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Philly Friday Frenzy. That's right, Philly Friday Frenzy for all you Delco people. That's how we say Friday around here. The inaugural episode here on the It's a Rap Sports Network. I am Big Al. I figured, hey, you spent all week long engorging yourself in Philly sports talk, either on the radio, on the internet, here at the It's a Rap Sports Network, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you want to find it, wherever you want to find us. You'll see it scrolling across the bottom. I said, I'm sure you come home from a hard week's work, and what more would you want to do than just keep it going? And that's what I'm going to do tonight and Friday nights going into the future for right now. The Philly Friday Frenzy will be talking. Well, tonight we're going to be covering a lot of Phillies and Eagles winter ball, or the MLB winter hot stove, whatever you want to call it. Winter meetings are going on, and then of course the Eagles. We're going to talk the Eagles tonight. We have to talk the Eagles. The letdown, the emotional roller coaster ride of sorts that the Eagles have brought this fan base on, and some of the rhetoric out there. I have to add, just I'm going to touch on some things. I'm probably going to go against some of the stuff that's been said here on the network, probably just today. I'm sure the birds blast will push against me all that today, but we're gonna go to it. Mickey, what is going on, my friend? It's nice to talk to you guys. I thank you for joining in tonight. If you're joining me, or if you're listening on the record, either way, thank you either way for joining us. Again, it's the Rap Sports Network. Follow us on all the social media. It's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, especially TikTok, Instagram, you name it. Well, we got it. But I want to just let's talk a little Phillies before we get me yelling and screaming about the Eagles in a minute. So I'm gonna pull up my notes here. The big news, of course, re-signing of Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber signs for 5 years, $150 million. With the re-signs with the Phillies. I still don't know how to feel about it, to be honest with you. I still don't know. I was kind of those things. If he signed with us, I'm happy. If he doesn't sign with us, and the money's allocated to something else, I would have been happy as well. But the one thing I have to see from this, guys, and Dombrowski has talked about this philosophy change, the way they're going to handle things. It has to be Kyle Schwarber in the 4-hole. I know it's something we've talked about a lot on this network. I know I've talked to Matty B about it a lot. I've talked about it on PM in the AM, now at Philly AM Sports on Sundays. I'm going to continue to say it. Kyle Schwarber, if he's going to be here, and my biggest complaints with Kyle Schwarber is, number one, the age. So 5 years, he's 33, so he's going to be 38 coming off this. And if you're going to use him for something, protecting Bryce Harper has to be one of those things. Alec Boehm in the 4-hole doesn't work. Now Alec Boehm going to be here next year. Time will tell. There, of course, rumors out there. They're shopping, of course, Nick Castellanos, which if he back in the Phillies uniform is out of just pure, they have no choice in the matter. Brandon Marsh, I've heard a little bit about. Matt Strom has been in some of the conversation, and Alec Boehm, of course, one of those people. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind moving on from those guys. I mean, Matt Strom, I would like to stick around, but if we can fetch something for Matt Strom, I'm okay with it. I know they've been in talks with the Mariners, and there's been different going back and forth about, can they get something for a left-handed pitcher, which, it's needed. But what's going to happen with our bullpen is also a question. The Phillies have a lot to do, and they got to do some really contortionist type deals to make this happen, to make this offseason, in my eyes, worthwhile, because right now you didn't get any younger. So there you go. That's number one. I believe the polar bear Pete Alonso signed with the Orioles for about the same amount of money, if not a couple bucks more. But he's also a few years younger, and he can play first base. And that's my other problem with Kyle Schwarber, is the way he can clog up with the aging Phillies team, the DH spot. And If he's going to clog it up, it better be in that 4-hole. I just have to say that. If he's going to clog it up, it better be in that 4-hole. And protecting Bryce Harper, that's where you need the philosophy changes. Get away from the analytics a little bit, Phils, and start going back to a little old school baseball mentality, a little feel for the game. Of course, speaking of the feel for the game, the skip, Rob Thompson, was extended. They're not going to let him go into this season in a lame duck year. So obviously they're going to extend him. We all know that means nothing. They can fire him at any point in time. It just they have to pay him a little extra if they do. But Rob Thompson's kind of a head scratcher with me. He's a guy you can go back and forth with. Not too unlike Nick Sirianni and the Eagles. Like the way he coaches isn't the way people want it, but the numbers and the results are there. I mean, not as much as Nick Sirianni. Of course, Nick Sirianni has been to 2 Super Bowls and won one. And it feels like the Phillies are going the other way right now with Rob. But, it's, the numbers are there. The results are there. I mean, regular season results are there. But it's kind of like some of the players. When it comes to the playoffs, the decisions aren't, 100% making sense to me. Maybe it's hindsight with how they, the decisions at the end of the last Dodgers game, getting in the hole that they did based on some of the decisions by Rob could make you feel not happy with him, which kind of falls in the category for me, as Rob. Nick Sirianni, I mean, listen, he's doing everything when a team's struggling as much as you're going to do. I mean, people want something different, but that's not what a coach is going to do, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But like I said, they also had a minor trade with Yonel Corrette. I think I'm saying that right. They traded with the Rays for the relief pitcher. They also just traded for Bryce, and that's Bryse, Bryce Wilson, a veteran right-handed pitcher who is not going to move the needle in my eye. I don't know what this is, like just kind of change of scenery guy. It smells like a just desperation move just to put somebody in there. But, this guy's been around. He was in Pittsburgh 21 to 22, Milwaukee 23 to 24. Then he was over in the White Sox this last year. And I believe he kind of bounced around last year a little bit with other teams. But he has not had a great career as of last few years. And to be honest with you, he's been one of the worst pitchers statistically in the last couple of years. So he topped off at 93, sits around 88 to 91, uses 5 pitches, misses bats, and at the lowest rate in baseball, and exit velocity shows that he gets rocked a lot. So I don't think this is going to be anything guaranteed. He might never even see him. So that move really is not a needle mover at all. He's a guy who's been around. Maybe they're going to try working out. Maybe they're going to try seeing what he's worth, see if they can change the scenery, work with him, get his velocity up. If not, he's gone. I mean, it's not a big needle mover in this one. The other big question is, and as far as I know, unless something's changed recently, JT Realmuto has not been signed. There's been an offer out there. It is expected to be a 2-year offer, which has been most offers, and I think JT is holding out for that 3rd year. And if anybody recalls in any of the shows I've said, most likely he's going to get that 3rd year with some sort of option, and he's 35 years old, right? At least he'll be 35, I think. And either he is 35 or he'll be 35 in March. That's right. He's drawn a little interest accordingly from the Texas Rangers and the Boston Red Sox, and he is defensively the best catcher on the market right now. Offensively, he's taken a little step backwards. 2025, he played 134 games, batting average of 257, 12 home runs, 52 at bats, or 52 RBIs, and an OPS of 699. I mean, the guy still he's the most durable catcher in baseball still as of right now, since 2019. Like I said, his average dropped a little bit, but he's had some clutch hits this year. He's not a liability at the plate in that sense. So he could still hit in your 6 or 7 hole and be pretty productive. If he's not there, as long as we're not there trying to get power hits from him, if he just keeps the ball in play, and he can still run. He's still a problem on the base paths for the other team. So I've always been a big proponent for JT. Even at 35 years old, he's one guy. If you can get him for a couple more years, I would say JT, listen, let's just pay you a little extra. Just take the 2 years, okay? 35, he'll be 30. He'll be 37 by the time, or almost 37, by the time he gets done with this. What are you going to do at that point? I mean, do you really think that third year is going to make a difference? But I guess if another third year is another $15 million, I guess it could make a difference in his eyes. So it's up to the Phillies willing to pay him that. And you know what? With a third year of him being that bad, even if he's backup catcher at that point, even he's kind of teaching the next evolution in Phillies catching. So if that's what's holding up the Phillies, I think the deal's going to get done. I wouldn't be surprised by Sunday, Monday at the latest. Maybe the Eagles will use that to distract themselves from any issues they have between now and then. They could use all this distraction they can get. But potentially, I've heard some other names just kind of scouring the Twitterverse, internet. Brenton Doyle from the Rockies has been a name. Gold Glove outfielder. He has a defense. More like an extra outfielder if they don't get one of the bigger names. I know Stephen Kwan continues to be a name that is kind of attached to the Phillies from a trade standpoint. Seiya Suzuki from the Cubs, and of course Lewis Roberts Jr. from the White Sox. They've been potential rumors, but it's the asking price that really probably will make that difficult for the Phillies pull the plug. What up, Mikey? Here's my partner on Sundays. What's going on, bud? I know this guy might not be there this Sunday again. He is a PennDOT man. So with the pending weather, which we're going to talk about a little bit because it might play a factor with Sunday's game, he might not be with me, but doesn't mean we won't have a show, boys and girls. So there you are. So the Phillies are keeping Jose Alvarado, of course, Johan Duran. So that does kind of help the back end. So that can be why a guy like Strom is a little bit you could if he fetches you what you need, he could be worth the move from. But there's got to be some moves made. You can't have a huge drop off because you're just trying to make moves, and that's where we got to see Dombrowski's ability to be flexible and be smart and think outside the box is going to come in to play here. So that's it on your Phillies. Tatsu Yanni is also still kind of a question if the Phillies could sign him. The Japanese pitcher, he's constantly, took shots at the Dodgers. So he didn't want to go to a team that already had Japanese players. Everything that made it sound like Philly would be a great fit for him. So that could be an interesting play for your Philadelphia Phillies from the pitching standpoint, depending on the costs. It's all about the costs. And if the Phillies are willing to go above the salary cap or make any big moves, because this is the time. This is the time that making a move is going to happen. You have a looming CBA coming up after next season. So I know the big push from the MLB has been, looking for a salary cap. Of course, the owners want a salary cap. Sorry, I can't pay you that much. We're just above the cap. That's what they want to be able to say. So it's going to force players to take less money. And of course, the players want nothing to do with that. I mean, we heard the whole story in the beginning of the season where, Bryce Harper and the GM of Major League Baseball said, started screaming, yelling at each other. Apparently, one of them were threatening. Somebody else was getting threatened, like they were going to get whacked by the mob or something like that. Some pretty crazy stuff, but makes for interesting talk. But it's going to be interesting over the next week or so what the Phillies do. Re-signing Kyle, I'm excited for, but I have some reservations about. And it's nothing against Kyle. I mean, his production's there. I look at Pete Alonso again, and outside of him, the two things him being a Met and his ability to come up short is also another problem. But production-wise, he has close to the same numbers as Kyle Schwarber does almost every year. He commanded, obviously, the same amount of money for the most part. And he's, 2-3 years younger? So could have we been better off with Pete Alonso versus Kyle Schwarber? Um, Time will tell, right? I mean, I love Kyle. Think he's a great player. Think he's a great glue guy. He still has the pop of his bat, but when he's on the base paths and you're going to put him in the first and second spot, it's going to be horrible because he becomes a liability on the bases. Then you have to pull him out of games early. So if he ain't going to play that 4-hole, like, I really think this was a waste. Like, they have to stop trying to be the smartest man in the room and let Kyle play in the 4-hole. And he did well when he did it. So I just don't understand. Is it Kyle saying that's what I want, and Rob saying no, or not get just trying to appease him, or is it the analytics showing the numbers? Because numbers were there when he was hitting the 4-hole, and he's dangerous, and he gives people, it makes people look at Bryce Harper, and Bryce Harper is going to need somebody to block him. Like, we saw it. They did not respect Bryce Harper, and they went to Alec Boehm when he was in the 4 spot. Even when Alec Boehm's hitting well, that's not what we want. That's not going to work. So if this philosophy change is going to stay and stick, it's got to be 4-hole. It's got to be a little bit back to old school baseball mentality. Maybe that's why they want Don Mattingly on the bench, or if the whole the Phillies start not doing too well and they need a manager, is Don Mattingly there in the just in case breaking case of glass situation for the Phillies. And I honestly think that is a big reason why they want him here. Makes sense. And if Tomper just doesn't play out the way we would hope, that's what's going on. That's a great safety valve for them to have. But I really hope we get back to a little bit of old school baseball mentality. Stop, you got Bryce. Now you got Schwarber locked up for 5 years. You move on from Nick Castellanos, and we stop swinging for the fences. Everybody's got to be contact hitters. Guys who can move on the base paths, who can create and manufacture runs. That's what made the Dodgers dangerous. And now 2 years in a row, World Series champs. Because they had really good players, don't get me wrong, but they weren't guys who were just raking the ball over the fence. They had guys who manufacture runs who would put the ball in play. 1 out, 2 out, it doesn't matter. They were dangerous. And that's what the Phillies need. That 1 through 9, you had to be afraid that they're going to put the ball in play. People didn't respect us after the 3-4 spot. Maybe after the 3 spot. 5s, Castellanos, he couldn't. He should never play professional poker. When he's struggling or he's not happy about something, it's all written all over his face. When Boehm, same kind of idea. I'm tired of his personality defects. Is I'm over as well. That's why I'm ready to move on from him, and I think that's why he struggles. Bryson, he flourished in the 9-hole, and if he's good there, if that's what he's going to do, that's his job in the 9-hole. I'm okay with him there. Defensively, he's a really good player, and if he's comfortable in the 9-hole and he can produce well enough, I'm okay with him there. Brandon Marsh, maybe our off the bench guy, or they have to have a really other good outfielder, and we have to see what Crawford can do. That would play a big decision maker in my eye. What's going on? But I don't know if the Phillies are done yet, and I wonder what they're. I really hope there's another name out there. But the problem is that it can't be at third base, so they're gonna, they're gonna have to trade away Aidan Miller, and I don't think that's the game plan. They're not going to pay a lot of money for a rental. Unless they just don't feel Aiden's going to be ready in time, and we need to win in the next couple of years mode, and Aiden's not going to be there to do it. And if Crawford's not up this season, then I don't know what's going on with that. Like, that needs to happen. It's almost his job to lose. It should be. Maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to message in, guys. I'll answer your questions. I know it's Friday night. You're not used to this time slot. So feel free to message on your Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever it is you want to do, because we're going to talk about the Eagles now, and we're going to get a little rowdy here. But before we do, I'll remind you that this great network has a great amount of shows here, and tonight you have an inaugural show, Philly Friday Frenzy. That's right, 9 p.m. here. Big Al, what's going on? You get your post game tomorrow, Flyers versus Canes, and then you got the Philly AM 9 a.m. spot on Sunday mornings. The holy trinity of Philly sports talk on the Sunday mornings. Of course, Eagles post game, Eagles versus Raiders, and Flyers versus Canes post game. So there is a multitude of things to watch here and enjoy and talk your Philly sports talk off your chest. And even if you missed some stuff today, Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, go back and watch. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. Gridiron Weekly, Final Word with Matty B was on last night. And then, of course, Flyers versus Knights post game. So plenty of content here at the It's a Wrap Sports Network. So if you're not watching it, you're not trying. So check it all out. And we will always be here to entertain you. Hello, Miss Aveline. Hello, how are we all doing? So this is where I want to talk Eagles. And I didn't get to watch the show today with Kyle and Matty B. I'll be honest with you, I was working when it was going off, so I really didn't get a chance to listen in. But I could only imagine what was said. I mean, I know Kyle's been on Twitter with some of the other WIP hosts about the sit Jalen conversation. So I don't know exactly where he stands, if he means to sit him now or, if he's ready to move on from him. But let's talk about this. And let me be completely honest. I am not defending Jalen's play, I should say, as of lately, and especially that 22-19 overtime loss to the Chargers. God bless the defense, because that game could have been a whole lot uglier looking. 2 turnovers by Jalen in a single play, let alone 5 all day long, all game long. Eagles still sit top of the East at 8-5. Thank God, because the East is crap. I mean, the Giants are officially, and Giants and Commanders are officially out of the playoff discussion. And because we're losing, but they are also losing because that's what Dallas does. They are right, a couple games behind us still. So this Raiders game could be looked at as a get right game. Let Jalen erase the ghosts of the past. Let Saquon start running the ball better. Maybe let the O-line, they are lowest ranked defense and offense in all of NFL right now. I mean, they are terrible. 2-win team. They have 2 really good players on either side of the ball, but that's it. And this looks like a get right game. It also could look like a game where, if this game isn't a blowout, the Eagles are going to be shoveled a ton more criticism. And I might get shoveled a ton more criticism after that. We'll find out. We'll see how Sunday plays out. But the fact that we're talking about sitting Jalen Hurts against a team that could be quote unquote get right is asinine. The fact that you have a guy that was a Super Bowl MVP not 10 months ago, not even, who has been to 2 Super Bowls, who's been to playoffs every season he started for the Philadelphia Eagles, and won a Super Bowl for the Eagles recently, is asinine. Absolutely and utterly asinine. And again, I am not defending Jalen's play, especially as of lately, or a lot overall this year. And yes, the Eagles are dealing with a lot of injuries. Big one is the Lane Johnson still with the Liz Frank sprain. Hopefully, looks like they're leading him towards back sooner rather than later. And we all know what the Eagles' record without Lane is. It's a big position, important position, and his abilities, even at his age currently, he's still, when healthy, one of the top, if not the top, right tackle in the NFL. So, without all that being said, the offensive line has been not good at all. It's probably been the worst year for from injury standpoints, with a lot of starting guys between Lane and Landon and Cam Jurgens. Some of these guys coming off surgeries after last year. All the tush pushes maybe starting to add up over the last seasons or two. But it's not just the injuries. There's definitely something disconnect for Jalen. He's not 100% himself. But the fact that I've seen, what's it called, Twitter polls about would you trade Jalen for Joe Burrow, and we would have to give up Jalen and a first-round pick for Joe Burrow, is asinine. The fact that we're asking for some guy's head, and when it's probably the same people, might I add, who were saying, God, this is probably like late January. God, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl and beat the Chiefs, I don't care if the next season or two is horrible. I just want to win a Super Bowl again. I want to win it now, God. And it doesn't matter. And they're sitting there praying, their little hands folded. And now it's coming true. And we all want to have some guy's head because of that. And to me, it's the people who have never played a meaningful down of football or sports in their life or coached a game meaningfully at all. It's easy to sit back and be an armchair quarterback, or easy to sit back and not look at the other dynamics of the team. You know, I'm not sitting there saying Jalen's perfect, and I'm not sitting there saying he's probably the best quarterback in the league. But I am telling you that he can win most of the time. As of lately, that's not true. That's just not true. But outside of, just losing the rest of the games and just completely falling apart, they're probably going to make the playoffs. I mean, you got 2 Washington games, which are divisional games, but Washington is hot garbage. They are dealing with way more important injuries. We're not going to be seeing Jaden Daniels. We know Zach Ertz is out, which was Mariota's one of Mariota's favorite, which was Mariota's favorite target at one point since he's took over for Jaden Daniels. Their defense is trash, and it is. So, I mean, the Eagles would have to be pretty bad. And listen, maybe my tune will change come this Eagles-Raiders game. Right now it's just win. Get the taste of the losing out of your mouth. Win. Now, would I like to see them beat them 47-0? Now, with the weather being the way it's supposed to be and the climate and all that stuff going to be playing a bit of a factor, and the way the offense has, even last week, we saw them. Like, there was moments where the offense was warming up and it looked like, okay, all right. And then a bad decision was made. A lot of bad decisions were made, and a lot of them were on Jalen. A lot of them were on A.J. Brown, not catching 3 very catchable balls. And we could have had at least another touchdown or 2. Both teams really dropped the ball, and that could have ran away either way. But Jalen was horrible, horrific. But I hope we all don't want to be judged on our worst day. That's how I look at things. I hope we are not all judged on our worst day. And when you're coaching a team, when you're leading a team, there is going to be bad times. There's going to be slumps for guys in all sports. But for a guy who has done what he has done, and his fan base who has become, what have you done for me in the last 30 seconds lately, kind of fan base, it's kind of gotten a little out of hand. It really has. I'm 42 years old. I've been through some really bad Eagles football. Lived through the 90s at a young age, early 2000s, and then, the McNabb era, and we did good. And then we had a little drop off. And then we won a Super Bowl with Carson Wentz getting hurt after he was being on fire, looking like just MVP. And Nick Foles was able to lead this team to its first Super Bowl in one of the most movie-like, unrealistic manners of a shootout with the greatest, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. I mean, Hollywood couldn't have. That's why there's people think they're script writers in the NFL. Was that 2017 Super Bowl? And then outside of the Rams game last year in the snow, the Eagles, I mean, just owned their way to the Super Bowl. The defense was a big reason why, not taking that away from them. But which allowed the offense to just cruise control and just throw some deep balls and just put the Chiefs away permanently. Just for catch up, the Sixers have won against the Pacers, 115 to 105. For those who are watching at home, why sitting around with me, I really won't be touching much on the Sixers tonight because despite all the problems, I think we forget that nothing's ever going to come easy. And maybe last year's Eagles team made us forget that because for the most part, that was a kind of cruise control-y type season. A couple bumps in the road here and there. But most people stayed healthy. Jalen Hurts was having a huge year. Saquon, of course, was having a huge year. And are we paying for that this year? Are we paying for that in their sluggishness? Are we paying for that in the injury aspect? Has Saquon lost a step? I don't know. Or has Saquon just never recovered yet? I mean, there's a lot of reasons to question it. But Jalen Hurts is sucking hugely right now. But I think Jalen is aware of that. I think Jalen knows that. And Jalen tried to force feed things. A turnover at the end of the game in overtime was all on Jalen. Dallas Goedert was right there at the first down marker, maybe a yard shy of it. It was only the second down, and he tried to force it into Jahad Dotson. I think that was just plain stupid. Like, it was just unnecessary and dumb. And he paid for it. And the way that game was going, turnover on a turnover to call to make the game completed, to finalize it, was just poetic. The fact that if they won that game would have been a bigger miracle, to be honest with you. 5 turnovers and you still win a game. That goes right against the grain. Right against the grain. Even Saquon had a turnover in that game. So again, I'm not judging my team solely on the worst game. And listen, they haven't showed us anything in the weeks from offense. This offense is a stale, and it needs to get better. But to discuss trading Jalen right now, to discuss sitting Jalen, to just throw him out at this point in time is asinine. It's absolutely asinine. And I'm sure he hears it. Maybe that's why he was force feeding things the other night. He's trying to prove a point. I mean, over the last couple of weeks, AJ's been getting his, and they haven't won since then. They were doing better when they were spreading the ball around, and he wasn't getting it as much. It felt like he was trying to force the ball to him. Was it the bitching and the moaning of AJ Brown? It's Friday, I can use the foul language a little bit. Was it the bitching and moaning of AJ Brown that forced Jalen to go, fine, we'll force it to him? Was it AJ or Jalen trying to force an AJ to Jalen connection again? I don't know. I don't know what it is, but those boys will have to figure it out. And I mean by the boys is all the boys in the locker room, but especially the leaders. And Nick Sirianni, that's his job. I know the term CEO coach has been tossed and labeled and stamped on him. And I don't always 100% disagree with that label. But it's working for the most part as long as he's got good, coordinators around him. Kevin Patullo, I think, is in over his head. I think that's one of the biggest problems. I don't know if they're believing what he's selling and the Eagles are trying to force it, and they just figure it's too late to make a change. I don't know if that's what's going on with him, but he's definitely in over his head, and we don't have a head coach who can just take over the reins as well or would do any much better than is currently happening. But it does seem like Kevin Patullo is just pulling almost opening up Chinese cookies and reading the plays out of there, just potluck style, which is sad and a waste of this offensive talent. But Kevin Patullo, I think, is in my eyes, one of the bigger problems right now. And I'm wondering if they're not believing in everything he's doing. And was Kevin brought in because they were just late to the game and looking for offensive coordinators? Was this Jalen asking for Kevin because he felt like he could run his offense a little bit more, and Jalen being over his head? Could be both. Both things can be true. But it is absolutely asinine to be discussing moving on from a Super Bowl MVP, a quarterback who's got you to playoffs every year he started, who's got you to 2 Super Bowls, who has won you one just as of last year. And am I putting money on it that the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year? And I know that 2023 comparison has been thrown out a lot. And I can see where it comes in a little bit, where this collapse, because you had a really good start, a little paper tigery, and I gave Matty B a lot of credit for that comparison. He stuck by his guns. But I think I've also heard him recently say he hasn't believed in Jalen Hurts this whole time. So that's hard for me to swallow when you say things like that. Man's having his best year. Absolutely. And it's hurting this team. Absolutely. But at the same time, to give up on somebody, to talk about trading him, to just destroy him at every chance you get, is usually coming from guys that I can tell who have never played a meaningful down of ball, who've never played in a playoff game or a championship game or played with a team where chemistry became a problem. I've coached for many years. I played for many years, not at the professional level, but I've coached. And I played, and not undifferent from the young guys to the professional players, teenagers and high schoolers. It's a chemistry thing. And I watch teams come off to hot starts, and the minute they had some adversity, they fell apart. And then I've had teams that kind of had rocky starts, and they had to deal with the adversity, and they did really well and finished very well. So there is a chemistry thing here. And I don't think it's all Jalen from that standpoint. I think he's a big part of it and needs to fix it. But like I said, it's too clickbaity of a conversation. And I know that's what the big names want to do. You know what I mean? And people are saying that, oh, that's them speaking their mind. And I don't believe it. I don't believe half of them say it. And if you ever notice, the people on the other channels talking about it are guys on, there's a team of these radio hosts. The ones who are players are shaking their heads at it. The ones who have been in the locker room are shaking their head at it. But the ones who never played a meaningful sports are the ones who are pounding their chest to move on from him, to sit him. If you lose the Vegas game, okay, we could talk about maybe sitting him would be a good idea. But there's a lose-lose situation. Let's see. True. I wish they would stop playing save face. Miss Evelyn, are you saying you wish they would try to stop playing like a style of football, trying to save face, or just try to win? Like, is that what you're trying to say? Harrison Bader is the odd man out. Yeah, we talked about the Phillies a little bit earlier there, Pat. He might be. Kyle Short was a waste of a signing. I don't want to call him a waste, Pat. As I said earlier, and I'll touch on it real quick, I don't want to say he's a waste. I would have preferred to allocate the money to something else, to somebody else, or somebody's else. But he's still a very productive player. It's got to be the four hole or nothing for him if he's going to clog up my DH spot and be a problem on the base path. But that is something we talked about earlier. But here's your major problem with sitting Jalen. Devil's advocate for a moment. Jalen sits, and you're going to put in Tanner McKee, who everybody's been pounding their chest for. This town loves their backup quarterback, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. But if he plays well, now you have a QB problem, QB controversy. What is that? How does that help us? You're going to still trade him, and then you think Jalen's going to want to come back and play here? And if Tanner isn't that good, now his trade stock has gone down. And I just don't see how you move on from Jalen Hurts right now. You can't. A guy who just won your Super Bowl, you just can't move on from. Like, you just can't, in less than a season later, just throw him away. And if, like I said, if he fails against, and he looks just as bad, if not worse, against the worst team in football, I mean, he went up against the third best defense with the Chargers, then it's probably sit time, because I mean, he's got a mental block. But this is the best game for him to get things right, to make some mistakes and move past them, to see what he can do and not do. He's not a perfect quarterback by any sense, but it, man, does win. He does win. And when he wins, that's Super Bowl time. Let's see. I mean, the fear of end coaches. I'm sorry. Be honest. Fix it. And if it takes to demote someone or sit a guy, do it. I understand what you're saying, but it can't be in a few games. It can't be a time when this team needs their leader. And I just don't think Tanner McKee's going to be that guy. I don't think Tom Brady's sitting on our sideline. I really don't. But he could be really good, don't get me wrong. But this team needs to fix it. And it's by sitting Jalen. Jalen wasn't the only problem that day. Jalen was not the only problem that day. Are you going to sit A.J. Brown too? He missed 3 big passes. Saquon he started off good, but then are you going to sit Kevin Patullo? I mean, I kind of hope they did get rid of him. But he was making some decent play calls in the beginning of the game and then went away from them. Pulled him out from under center. He was doing good under center. Then he went away from it. They were running the ball pretty consistently. Then he went away from it. But Saquon, he fumbled. He fumbled. So are we going to blame him? I don't know. You going to sit him? Great regular season player, but postseason 4 years with small production. I get it, Pat. I'm not disagreeing with you. That was my other slight against him. So it's all politics. Got it. Miss Aveline. I don't know what you mean by politics. It's not politics. It's chemistry. It's giving a guy a chance to right the ship. If we as fans were treated the way we treated our sports athletes or our professional athletes at our jobs, you made one mistake, you'd be fired. You would have the entire town clamoring because the guy didn't make their cheesesteak right at their favorite pizza joint one night. Or maybe the worst day of your job where you came in a bad mood and you were shitty to everybody and you're judged off of that. He can win. Jalen has the ability. We've seen it. It wasn't an anomaly that you went to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. It wasn't an anomaly that you won one of those Super Bowls. He is a winner. He might not have the flashy stats. Look at the guys who do have the flashy stats right now. Outside of Patrick Mahomes, who doesn't even have him right now. He's struggling big time. Are you think they're going to talk about trading Patrick Mahomes for Joe Burrow? Are they going to fire Andy Reid? Because they're struggling and they're about to not make the playoffs for the first time in forever. I mean, he's definitely not making probably an AFC championship game for the first time in like 5 years or whatever it is. It's not politics. Politics means somebody's getting a job who doesn't deserve the job. Jalen has earned the job. So he's earned the right to right the ship in my eyes. And the outside noise it's just gotten a little out of hand. Politics equals calculation, trade value, stats. I guess that's stats or trade value stacks, etc. If we sit someone or have a QB controversy, no, it's a lose-lose situation. I don't know how that's politics. I'm saying Tanner McKee, if we have a QB controversy, where does that help us? How does a QB controversy help the Philadelphia Eagles? Do you think Tanner McKee will be the next big thing and be able to take over and do the job permanently? Does it hurt the psyche and the mentality of Jalen? Maybe he forces his way out like kind of Carson did. Now that worked out for us. So maybe it is what we want. But I'm just saying I don't see. I mean, when they sat Carson, they made a conscious decision to move on from him, and they did. It was obvious. It was absolutely obvious. But I just don't see the value in the help. There's very little, in my eyes, benefit, even if they win the game, and say they win with Tanner McKee 40-0, right? Just throwing it out there. What now? You play a bad Washington team, have a good game there, 2 good games in a row, but then he goes up against the Bills and they has a bit of a problem, or he gets in the playoffs and he gets shellacked. I mean, but if you're going to, that's my point, is if you're going to sit Tanner or play Tanner and sit Jalen, that means you're only sitting him to put him back in at one point, right? Like you sit a slumping baseball player. You can sit a slumping baseball player because, number one, there's 162 games in a year, so you can sit him for a game or two, and it's a blip on the radar. And even if it's an MVP of the World Series from the year before. But your quarterback is the foundation of your team. And this quarterback has come up big in big moments for this team. It's also come up small at times. But when the moment counted the most, Jalen Hurts has come through for the most part. And again, that's a stat or a number that's not calculated, at least commonly. I think we live in a fantasy football world because we see points. Oh, a guy had 5 touchdowns today. Guy had 12 touchdowns, 500 yards. Ask Josh Allen how all his Super Bowl rings feel. Oh, wait, he doesn't have any. Ask him how it feels to go to a Super Bowl. Oh, wait, he hasn't been there. How about Lamar Jackson? Joe Burrow went to a Super Bowl, but since then has not been able to stay healthy. My point is, outside of Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, what other quarterback has been to multiple Super Bowls? I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been the one and won it. That was 15 plus years ago. Phil Rivers, 44, coming back. Never been to a Super Bowl. Be funny if he won a Super Bowl this year. This is how he wins his Super Bowl at 44. His total career, he wins it at 44. That'd be kind of comical. But I mean, like, seriously, starting QBs in the NFL, guys who have good numbers, who can play really well, and if maybe put on the Eagles could also excel. I mean, if you put Josh Allen on the Philadelphia Eagles, I think he would excel. But that's one of few. But he also doesn't mean he'll win, because the man has excelled, but can he win? Winning is it's all about. I don't care if Jalen has 1 touchdown or 100 touchdowns in a game. It's the W that means the most. So politics be damned. It's a chemistry thing. This team is a team. And you're not going to give up on one of your biggest assets for a backup, especially in a game that is more of a get-right game than anyone. Now, the weather might make that a little bit more difficult. They're calling it 1 to 3 inches on Sunday of snow. They still have the Eagles at an 88% win probability. The spread's 11 is giving the Eagles 11.5 to 12.5 some areas. I don't think anybody's going to take the Eagles in that one because even though I just said, the Vegas Raiders are, garbage, they still somehow keep games close. And the over under is 38.5. And the way the Eagles offense is going, I don't see many people leaning that way. I think there's been too much, style points problems and not enough just worry about the winning. And it's gotten to that point. But I think right now, this is the opportunity the Eagles can take to make things right. To help Jalen. And I'm not sitting there standing ovations. I'm not sitting there applauding, and no booing, I've heard, was one of the other things. You can boo him all you want, but I think Jalen boos himself more than anybody when he makes mistakes. So your boos be damned in this situation. It's just, I don't know what has happened to this fan base. And listen, is there a reason major media markets out there, not just local radio stations, ESPN and FX or FS Sports or whatever it is, or Fox Sports, um, and other big time content creators go with the trade Jalen, beat on the Eagles drum because of us. It's because of us. Because no one likes us and we don't care is the biggest load of BS I've ever heard in my life. No one likes us and we care way too much about it. We don't like us and we piss ourselves off. And that's a problem with this fan base. We are a fickle fan base. People know it. They talk about us like a joke. They're talking about us online like a joke, or I saw some clips on Twitter, but it's Philly. This is just the way the fan base is. Let's see what this we have here. It's really tired to stay away, but I can't. This is the biggest load of propaganda I've ever heard you say. Jalen wins, not the Eagles. Jalen wins Super Bowl MVP, not the actual MVP, etc. You can't sit here and say Jalen isn't part of this. I even said, obviously, again, we all know this is Matty B. So I'm going to spend the last few minutes getting louder. So we'll do that. Here. I'm going to leave it up on the screen. That's propaganda. Your propaganda. Right there, Matty B. That's what it's all about. Is, again, about being right versus seeing the bigger picture here. Jalen wins, not the Eagles. Yes, the Eagles won, but Jalen was a big piece of that. And the fact that you discount Jalen in that winning is asinine. Yes, he was a Super Bowl MVP. And yes, could we talk about other players, like defensive players being MVPs in that game? Absolutely. That Super Bowl was just a shellacking of one of the better teams in recent football history. So yeah, you could have picked other people, and they could have won it deservingly. I'm not saying just because he was a Super Bowl MVP, but he was a Super Bowl MVP. He is a guy who's gotten you to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. And we've all heard people say they'll take a bad year for a Super Bowl win. My point being is, you don't just move on from a guy or just sit a guy because he struggles. Especially the guy who has the upside of Jalen. Let's see, we got more. Let's see what else we got here. Aside from 2022 Hurts, is a mid as F. The playbook is super limited with Hurts and deserves to be benched. Again, he will if he lives against Vegas. But if you want your quarterback to get right and things to be right, this is the best kind of game. The worst team in the NFL. You've hit rock bottom. I would hope this is rock. At least the Chargers game is rock bottom. I sure hope so. Is rock bottom. And I was very mad about it as well. I was angry and pounding my chest during that game. I yelled at myself, why did I stay up that late to watch that Chargers-Eagles game? I'm not saying if he doesn't play any better, but this is the game where you get right and you try to stand behind a player who we know has the talent to be better when he's struggling and not ready to move on and not ready to bench somebody on there. Now, if he comes out and he plays some hot crap shit against the Raiders and he looks no better than against the Chargers, okay, then maybe he deserves to be sat. Because at that point, the season's kind of becoming falling short at that point. But this game, this moment in time is when you kind of try to rally around a guy and give him a chance to support and allow him to fix his problems, because it's not like they're unfixable. That's the point. Like it's definitely between the ears somewhere. It's definitely in the playbook somewhere. I'm thinking Kevin Patullo is a big problem with it. Maybe they're trying to go rogue. We heard them doing that in 2023. They weren't believing in what was being sold to them. Is it the AJ Brown stuff? I don't know. There could be a lot of locker room stuff we don't know about, we don't hear about. But to sit here and, like I said, like you're telling me there's no upside. Is Jalen cooked? Like you just saying totally cooked? Oh no, a QB controversy. A win is a win, right? Isn't that what you, Homer, say? It's the Philadelphia Eagles, not the Philadelphia Hurts. I'm not saying that's what I'm saying. I'm worrying about the team long term. Sitting him and benching him this one game right now doesn't help anybody long term. And I'm worrying about the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not worrying about Jalen Hurts. Hey, listen, Jalen Hurts moved on and went to another team and we had another quarterback. I'm behind that quarterback. Don't worry about that. I'm not supporting Jalen blindly. But I also know Jalen has an upside. And right now we're seeing the lowest of lows. Give him a chance to get high, and stop being part of the typical rhetoric that's spewing out there. Oh, thank you. That's what I'm saying. It is not about Jalen Hurts per se. It's about just throwing something away that can really have a high upside and move forward. And this is that game. This is that game. The Raiders being one of the worst teams in the NFL. A snowy game. See how he bounces back. Because isn't that what it is? Isn't that what is like kind of the measurement of a person, of a winner? Is that not how many touchdowns they have or anything, but how they are coming off their worst game, how they are coming off their worst moment. How do they respond? Because if he responds really well, I think that could be a season shifting type movement, right? Am I wrong? Like if Jalen Hurts has a really good game here, kind of finds his rhythm, finds himself. The offense gets in a really good rhythm. Now, I understand it's the Raiders, so I'm going to take everything with a grain of salt on that. But if he able to really is to find that, and then he can translate that into the Washington game, the Bills game, and the second Washington game, and find some momentum moving into the playoffs, isn't that huge? I hope the Phillies get someone else. Star Wars, truer words have never been spoken. But with that being said, I will end this Philly Friday Frenzy episode on that note. My thing is you have to take the good times with the bad times, and you have to allow the man to get a chance to right his ship. Redemption stories are one of the best stories, right? And we all, at our worst moments, want to go, we would thank the people or peoples or persons or the person who gave us that opportunity to right the ship. So let's give them the opportunity to right the ship. I'm not asking for standing ovations. I think that's lame. I'm not asking for not booing. I think that's lame. We all know who I'm talking about. I'm asking for you to sit back and give the man a shot. If he comes out and looks like crap and doesn't and loses on top of it all, then we could talk about benching him for the rest of the season. Because the season is pretty much being shot in the foot, even though we still have a playoff chance. But 4 games in a row, losing to one of the worst team in the NFL, that would play a factor. But with that being said, guys, I appreciate you for hanging out with me on this Friday night. I want you to check out all the other great shows like Props, Locks, and Parlays with Mikey Laro. The Final Words Sunday through Thursday with Maddie B. Sundays 9 a.m. Philly AM Sports. The post-game show, which I'm sure will be interesting. Don't forget our Pittsburgh boys, Steel City Sundays, pre- and post-game. Gridiron Weekly, talking NFL, NCAA, football, all around. Pittsburgh Sports Tonight, talking all Pittsburgh sports, as well as the Pittsburgh Sports Desk, and so much more. Once again, here is the lineup for the rest of the week. I will be seeing you guys later. Have a great Friday night and a great rest of the weekend. Stay warm and be careful not to slip on any of that snow out there. Talk to you guys not in a couple days. See you later.